Donc, bonsoir tout le monde. Bon, this is Yella. Aujourd'hui, nous prenons un nouveau host. Nous prenons Asma qui fait un nouveau host aujourd'hui. Donc, on finit avec sa caméra. Tu es ready?
Hi, everyone. We wait for more students. Yashil? Yashil?
Oui, bien sûr, bien sûr, yes. We
Can you hear
wait
me?
for more students.
Okay.
Yes. Oui.
Okay.
Non,
So
mais je
you're
pensais
all
que
requested to
oui,
have...
c'était
Huh?
we pensais que dire, we will wait for more students.
Ah, okay.
Ouais, donc, je fais questionnement là. Also for today, Dr. Ruchan, I think that, well, since it's the last session, we can have it a little bit longer. So if we need to extend it, yes.
Okay.
Because the previous two, we had to rush a bit towards the end. So let's finish this one correct.
Okay, yeah, fine. Because this one is going to be, like I've told you in the email, it's going to be like the students are going to draw their home, and then we're going to add things on that sheet. So all students who are present today, they would need to have one piece of paper, A3 if they can, but if not A3, at least A4, a black sheet of paper, because it's going to be, as we go along, you'll be adding things on that paper, and ultimately, the whole purpose today is for you to understand your home, so that you can understand how to apply circular economy principles, which we've learned in the previous two sessions, but also because anything which you want to make better, you need to understand it. That's a fundamental thing. Anything in engineering, anything which you would apply later, any project you'll work on, you need to understand it well. So today's topic is in circular home. You need to understand your home well. So as we go along, it's going to be quite interesting. You would understand your home better and how it behaves in terms of energy, in terms of water, in terms of materials. That's what the whole purpose today is about. Yeah. So if you can get a piece of A3 sheet of paper, or if you don't have A3, at least A4. So keep it handy, and any pencil and eraser. Yeah, that's going to be important. Yeah.
Asma, toi aussi, hein, mais finis pas en papier, moi. Okay, nice.
You're all requested to have a sheet of paper, by the way, and a pencil.
Oh, George.
We also have our live on YouTube that I will be sharing the link in the chat box. So if you have any issues with Zoom, or your friend has any issues, you can send them this link. Asma, I think that we will start at 18:10. 6:10.
Okay. Okay. I think we can start now. Dr. Guruchan, teaching and non-teaching staffs, dear students, good evening. Thank you all for joining us once again. I am pleased to be hosting today's third and last workshop session on circular economy principles and applications. I am Acha Asma from BEng Chemical Engineering, an executive member of the Chemical Engineering Society, and I serve as the Public Relations Officer. Enough about me. The last two sessions were very informative as well as interactive, and I am positive that today's session will take the same stance. So far, Dr. Guruchan has done a great job in explaining us the basic concept of circular economy, its principles, its importance, and its applications. Today's session will focus on three important components. Firstly, applying circular economy at your home. Next, IoT and mechatronics opportunities. And lastly, circular economy and climate action. This session is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel at Engineering Community, so you can always check it out if you missed a part. I will be reading some of your questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. Also, to validate your presence, you will have to fill in the Google Sheet, which will be provided to you later on after the presentation. Thank you, and now Makon will take over. He will give a brief description on the Chemical Engineering Society. Makon.
Thank you, Asma, and good evening, everyone. I am Makon. I am the current Vice Treasurer of the Chemical Engineering Society. So as Asma said, I am going to talk about the Chemical Engineering Society. So without losing time, let me start. Chemical Engineering Society is a society that has been created by students for students. We have a vision to provide an opportunity for students to begin their professional careers and to create professional links with local companies as well as those abroad. Recently, our previous president, Mr. Adarsh Pandu, had seen that there was a cutoff between the students of chemical engineering and the real life experiences in industries. To tackle this issue, he created a WhatsApp group where all the chemical engineering students could get an easy access to alumni who are currently working in different types of industries across the island. We have also deemed it important to update the students of chemical engineering about the recent developments in the field through publication, field trips, meetings, talks, and also seminars. As we all know, there is a large academic gap between secondary and tertiary education. For the comfort of our newcomers, we have been assisting them during their period of studies. We have also been putting lots of emphasis on team building by organizing activities such as hiking. Our next main project is to make CES an iChemie chapter. The CES team is really keen about this project as this will allow the students of chemical engineering to become part of the Institution of Chemical Engineers. With this, I thank you all for your kind attention. I now leave the floor to Asma. Thank you.
Thank you, Makon, for this brief introduction. And now Dr. Guruchan will start his presentation. Dr. Guruchan, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Asma. So I'll just share my screen. I hope you can hear me properly. I'll just share my screen. So if you can see it, just get confirmation from me. Asma, is it all right? Can you hear me and can you see the screen?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so let's get started. Like Asma said, this is the third part of the session on circular economy. I've added here, of course, we're going to cover the application of the C principles, circular economy principles at your home. Now, we've covered the circular economy principle already, and I would say any project you have in the future, whatever scale it is, the circular economy principle would be relevant. So it's a really very powerful tool. I would encourage you to always keep that in mind for whatever project you're working on, especially sustainable development ones. Now, especially why about your home here, it actually stemmed from my experience last year for COP26. You would know COP26 is a conference for climate change. So this is where the climate action, climate change would come in. So I will give a brief overview on climate action and climate change at the very start of our presentation today. Now, when I participated in COP26, there was a need actually to engage the community, means common people, people who don't have any expertise, engineering knowledge or science knowledge. So these people, for them, climate change is like a myth for them. They don't really understand what it was. So by using their home as the example to explain about the climate change effect and how they could contribute to climate action, this was a really interesting approach for me. This is why I'm showing today how you could use a circular economy principle at your home to really make an impact. So it's going to be relevant for anyone, be it engineering students or any student from any faculty, be it agriculture, from management, anyone should be able to understand it. Maybe with some further efforts, of course, you can read a bit more about it, but it is going to be more of a non-technical nature. Yeah. Now, I mentioned the IoT, mechatronics, and artificial intelligence I've added. So I would give some information towards the end on that. But important I've added is materials innovation. So like we said, we have amongst us students from chemical engineering. So when we talk about materials innovation, there it's really about science, about STEM people, about mechanical engineers, about mechatronics, about electrical engineers, but also about chemical engineers, because when we talk about materials innovation, it's about understanding our materials. So people from chemistry or chemical engineering would find lots of opportunities today in our talk. And like I mentioned, one focus would be on how we can apply the circular economy principle for climate action. Yeah. Now, if you look down, I've written like a tag there, getting real and make changes happen. Because if you look at COP26, if you followed that, and you would see there were a lot of young activists like yourself who are really very keen to get climate action as part of policies of governments, not just Mauritius, but around the world. So they were not happy with how our leaders are going forward and giving policies, but without having concrete action plan. This is what I put it there. It's very important that we don't just talk about policies. We do get our hands dirty and do things. It could be at household level, at community level, at your village, at town level, city, district level, or over the whole of Mauritius. Does not matter. The scale of your intervention does not matter, but you should be, all of you, concerned about climate change and do as much as you can, because it is really something which is influencing lives. So it's important that you be part of it. So the very first slide, I'm going to just invite your opinion on that. I will give you the outcome of a similar exercise which we carry out for all Commonwealth countries as part of COP26, but I would want to have your views on climate change. So if you can just access this Menti sheet there, I'll be sharing it like I've been doing in previous times. So you can access the sheet either for the QR code or just by, I'm just going to copy and paste the link so that you can have access to it. Oh, 1 minute. Yeah, so I'm going to copy and paste that in the chat so you can access it using that link as well, or you can just scan the QR code if you have any smartphone with you. Yeah, so just access that. There are two sheets. The first one is simply asking about your perception on climate change, and the second one a bit more detailed. So I'm just going to share the screen now. So if you can access, so just make sure. So already some of you are accessing it, as you can see. So I'm just presenting it now. Yeah, so is climate change and its impact real? Now, why is this question there? Because there were actually some debate earlier on climate change. There were many people, if you step back 20 years back or even 10 years back, there were many people who were doubting, is climate change actually happening, or is it just something created by scientists? Yep. So there was always a debate, yes or no. But this is why I want to invite your feedback on that. So is climate change and its impacts real, or is it something which we are inventing? So I can see most of you are saying yes here. So let's wait for some more feedback from you, and then I would proceed with the next sheet, which you will find in the same document. So just inviting your feedback on this. So we have around 70 students today. So already half of you are saying already say like a resounding yes. So that's something very important that we have to agree that climate change has been caused by human beings and we are being impacted by it. Like I was saying, if you step back 10 years back, people were still doubting, especially people who have vested interest in let's say in fossil fuels, or they are maybe getting profits out of selling things which are creating carbon emissions. So these people were trying to resist that movement which was creating up, but at the same time, scientists were raising alarm. So one of you saying not sure. So already, always we have this uncertainty about it. But if you look at the reports which have emanated last year, which is called an IPCC report, a report created by professionals and scientists around the world. So really top people, even professors, they have now unanimously said that climate change is not a myth. It is not uncertain. It is not something which we are still uncertain about. It's clear cut now. Climate change has been created by human beings. If you look at the scientific findings, and so the next sheet now, I hope I can move forward. If I just click there. So this one is the first one. If you press next sheet, you should be able now to access the next sheet, which is this one. So I hope you can access it if you press the next one. Let me just do that. Yeah. So are you able to access the next sheet? We're saying if you believe climate change is among us and causing impacts, what are these main impacts happening? So are you able to access this sheet there? If you press next in your on the sheet and able to give your comment, or you're not able to access this sheet?
Yes, you can access it.
Okay, so I just invite your feedback here. So if you believe climate change is among us, it's really here and causing impacts. So can you highlight some of these main impacts, what is happening around us, which can be linked to climate change? Yeah, so already I can see one of you saying unstable weather conditions. Yeah, so can you give more? I'm talking about the impacts. So we know what is climate change. It's basically about global warming and greenhouse gas emissions. So what are now the effects of climate change and how it is impacting livelihoods? So can we just look at some of these? Yep, so we can already see some good feedback from you. It means you're really aware of it. This is what I'm trying to stress through this as well. Since climate change is a reality and we are all living with climate change, it's very important that we have a population, a young population. I would say everyone should be well familiarized with climate change, and it should even be integrated. There are countries around the world who have integrated climate change education, even at primary level, secondary level. I think 2 weeks back, I was actually animating a workshop at the level of the Embassy of Egypt, because they will be hosting the COP27 now in November of this year. So there was secondary pupils from different colleges who were there, and you'll be you'll be surprised, but there are many youth or many people out there who don't actually understand what is climate change, even if it's impacting lives. If we just look at some of them, so I'll be just also presenting quickly on that in a few minutes, some slides on what's happening. Yep, so there's one, animal extinction. So this is very interesting. If you look at the impacts of climate change, it has left no one behind. If you look at any phenomena that you have on our planet, climate change have sort of disrupted everyone, be it people, animals, plants, even the sea. Everything has been impacted in one way or another. Yep. So flash flood, we're going to have a very important topic on that today. Sea level rising. So we will talk about that. Hot summers and colder winters. I have actually felt very cold now. We are in the midst of it. But one question would be asked always, winters are always cold, but we need to find recourse now. If you go on the meteorological side and then you find, yes, some winters are becoming colder. I remember last year was the coldest in Pamplemousse, was 8 degrees Celsius, and that was a record low for, I think, the last 20 or 30 years. So these are signs that we are having some changes. Yep, so you're right about this, noticeable, and definitely summers are becoming warmer as well. If you look at the temperature, melting in iceberg, that's known. Now, close to us, coral bleaching and is a very important issue for us. Yep. There are phenomena, like you say, fume cold atmosphere. So this is really one effect of climate change. Low-lying islands, like you mentioned, Maldives, which are much more concerned than Mauritius in terms of they have the risk of being submerged completely. So it is much more critical for them. In the context of Mauritius, I can see loss of our beaches. This is something I will talk later. We can say Mauritius is quite high in the middle, but imagine if the sea just rises by, let's say, 1 meter, which is quite actually quite dramatic, but it means we're going to lose our beaches. And we know the tourism industry is so important for us. So we will not be spared as a result of that. So interesting, there's one here, discovery of new bacteria diseases. So if you study climate change a bit closer, and it is so widespread the impacts, we can even link the occurrence of COVID to climate change. Yeah, because when you have climate change, you have loss of biodiversity, and then you find that the barrier which we use to have between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom starts becoming smaller and smaller. At some point, and in some communities, this barrier just vanishes, and then you have the animal species who are having this natural divide between human being and the animal species is no more there. Then we start being affected by viruses. So even to that extent, if you look at viruses, and now it is predicted because of climate change, because of loss of biodiversity, we will get more and more frequent pandemic now. If you go into that scientific literature, you'll find that, which is quite scary, I would say. We're just going out of COVID-19 pandemic, and we know how difficult that was, but already we're seeing there are other bacteria coming out and other viruses. So this is a huge concern for us. Yeah. So thank you very much for all this feedback. So we're going to proceed now, but I'm very happy that I can see you all are well familiarized with climate change, and you have you know also the impacts, which is important. So now once you know the impacts, it means we can find solutions for them as much as possible. We can do that, of course, as much as we can do. There are things which have to be at the level of government or states, or even at the level of UN or at higher authorities, which we cannot normally impact, although we can lobby for it. But there are very simple things we can do, and this is what the topic is today about, the circular home. So now I will shift to my presentation. So thank you very much for this. Has been quite interesting what you have been contributing. Okay, now very quickly, I'm just going to show some impacts. We know the main cause of climate change is CO2 emission, which comes from the fossil fuels mainly. So this is one thing, and this has been the industrial revolution which has caused, really accelerated this. And linked to that, we talk about the carbon footprint. So this is how much carbon emissions we have. So the concept of carbon footprint is very interesting. You can have a carbon footprint as a human being yourself. So each one of us can think about his carbon footprint in terms of in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of how you travel, how you eat, what type of material you use, what you do with the material. So this is also possible at the level of a human being or a company, or as a level of a university, as an organization or a country. So this concept of carbon footprint is really interesting. Therefore, us to really understand what is our impact on the environment in terms of global warming. And if you understand your impacts, you can start mitigating or minimizing your impacts. Now, you mentioned, I will just go quickly over that. We are having dramatic changes in the climate around us, and this is really disrupting many things. One of them is summer and winters becoming colder. We've said that. So we are having effects both on land and sea. Our sea is becoming more and more acidic because of this carbon in the atmosphere, and also because of changes in how the cycles and natural cycles operate in terms of water cycles, in terms of air pollution and so on. We're having acid rain. So all this is causing impacts at some level, and we are being impacted throughout. Now, for Mauritius, like we said, we mentioned about this, our beaches are being eroded because of rise in sea level, but also because of acidification, and we're having impacts on coral reefs, mangroves. So all these are interlinked together. And we are finding shifts now. In Mauritius, we have not seen that like significantly already, but there are regions in the world where used to be desert, they are becoming green, and green areas are becoming desert. This is very, very serious for our habitat, where people used to get their livelihood from these areas. Now this is shifting completely, and you have talked about the ice caps, so this is very important, and this is affecting, of course, the animal kingdom as well. I mentioned about that. So if you compare Maldives to Mauritius, we can say we are quite high level, but it's going to impact a lot on our beaches, so it's very serious for us. and you would have heard of forest burning. So if we very simple stuff about CPE level, at CPE at the standard 5 or 6, you understand the cycle of carbon dioxide and oxygen, how plants is fundamental. So when you see forest burning, and we know that we have increased level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and over that, if these plants are being destroyed, forests are being destroyed, it is really worsening the effect. We've talked about rainfall patterns in Mauritius. We've seen pictures like this already, and this is quite scary. Unfortunately, when we have images like this, when we have situations like this in Mauritius or anywhere in the world, we are quite helpless. This is something very important we have to realize. But what climate change is causing a natural phenomena, natural calamities, which we are powerless against. This is something which we need to realize. This is very important as I go along. This is very important as you reach out and you try to make your let's say you're making a case for climate action, and people are talking about economics to you. The economics is fine, but if you talk about the environmental impacts and it's the tribulations it is causing on human beings, it's no more a question of economics here. It's a question of human life and survival. This is very important. This would change the way you reach out. This would change your message in a way. So as we go along, this become clearer. Now, for Mauritius, climate change is predicted to cause even more severe cyclones. We've seen that already in America, in other countries where we got more and more intense cyclones. And again, there it is another case of our helplessness against the environment. So if you have this cyclone or hurricane coming in, people are in developed countries like America, they can't prevent people from meeting death during these severe events. So this tells you that it's not a question just about looking for the economics of things. There are things happening out there which is beyond our control, and we're helpless against that. Now, a very similar exercise to what you've just done for me. So as part of COP26, I had actually participated in an online survey for Commonwealth Youth. So you would have received that link maybe. I don't know if you participated or not. So this tells you what priorities the youth have given in terms of concrete action against climate change. So you can just read on that. So there was protection of coastal areas, which received the highest priority. So very important for us. Planting trees and conserving forests, switching to green energies, fostering permaculture, smart agriculture. So this is one project which I've talked to Yashil. So this would be interesting, how we can encourage our youth to go more towards agriculture and make it more modern in a way, but still we are able to reap the benefits of agriculture. Implementing sustainable building practices. So we know the built environment, which we're going to discuss today, is a very important component of our livelihoods. If you could use built environments to create climate action, this would be very powerful. So this is really what we're going to discuss today. There was one on enabling a circular economy. So this is what we're discussing today. So circular economy is a very powerful mechanism, a very powerful tool for climate action and promoting ecotourism. That's what some of the main priorities of our youth across the whole Commonwealth, not just Mauritius. Now, next, I'm just going to share this one. There were many similar statistics like this, but I've just took two from the whole set of data. The next one was what the barriers that youth have reported that prevent them to participate in climate action. Yeah, so you can just look at that. Maybe that's going to be similar in your case. If you want to do things, not just about climate action, but in general, for any sustainable development, maybe you would be able to identify some of these barriers. So first one was lack of involvement in decision and policy making. So when we have national policies on climate action or sustainable development, our youth is not necessarily consulted, or even if you are consulted, your voice is not really reflected in the policies. So lack of funding. So if you have any idea for your community or for your region, maybe your village, you don't get funding for that. Lack of awareness of climate issues. So like I said, when I do run workshops, there are people out there who are not even aware, even young people like yourself who are not even aware of climate change. So that is quite serious because it's impacting livelihoods, but we don't even know it's there. Lack of climate education. So once you are aware of climate change, we need to have climate education, sort of what I'm doing today, so that we empower our own people, our youth, even any citizen, to be able to see at their level what can they do to tackle climate change. So it's possible, like I'm going to show today. No platform for youth to advocate. So like to link to organizations who are fighting for climate change. Lack of guidance for implementing solutions. So I hope from today's workshop, you would get that guidance to some extent, because I'm focusing on the circular home, but I hope you can expand that to any any project you have. Let's get started. So like I said earlier, the whole purpose when you want to apply circular economy principles, just like in anything in life, you need to understand the process well. If you are, for example, a mechanical engineer, you want to, let's say, work on a project to reduce corrosion, let's say. Or if you're, let's say, you're an electrical engineer, you want to work on wireless communication. Or if you want, let's say, a chemical engineer, you want to work on any chemical process. You need to understand the process well. And when you have understood it well, then you can propose any solution. So now today's session is about your home. So we're going to start drawing your home and then adding elements to it. As we go along, you will understand your home better. You understand the impacts your home are having on the environment and maybe contributing to climate change, even a small amount, but it is contributing. And once we can do that, you will see that you yourself would be able to propose solutions. So I'm not going to tell you what you should do at your home level. Why? Because each one homes is different. My home is in a given context, in a given place, oriented in a given way. Your home is definitely different. So I can't go about and look for solutions for everyone. This is why it's called about empowerment. So it's better you empower people with very simple principles, then they can come up with their own solutions and they become sustainability champions and they can maybe raise awareness on the people. Let's get started here. Like I said, you need to have one piece of paper. A3 if you have, but A4 is also fine. So I want you to draw a simple layout like this. This is my home. Yep. So this is how my home is. So I have a big kitchen here. And then you have this is a ground floor for me. I've just drawn the ground floor, but if you have a ground and first, you will need to do two layouts, one for the ground floor, and then on the other side of the paper, you have to draw your first floor as well. Yep. So if you can quickly draw that, so a quick layout, even if your house is a bit complicated in terms of shape, if you have any protrusions and so on, you can omit these details. Just try to draw a basic layout of your home. It would most likely be a square or rectangle. So get started with that. And then start drawing the internal partitions. So where maybe your living room, where you have any bedroom or toilet, bath. I put a staircase here, kitchen, garage. Maybe you have other areas like study or prayer room. You can add all this. Yep. So I give you time for that. I will take at least 5 minutes to do that because we're going to add details to that as we go along. Now, don't draw the layout full on the paper. Like, don't take all the space. Draw it maybe in the middle, but leave space around it because we're going to add information as we go along. Yep. So don't take the whole sheet of paper. Draw it big enough, but maybe in the middle, like taking like the middle area, but don't cover the whole sheet. Yeah. So as you do that, I'm just going to just to see other things. So as you're drawing your layout, yep. So add spaces like I've said, and then next thing you need to also add, as you can see on this layout here, you have to add also the windows and the doors. Yep, external ones. I'm not interested of internal doors here. Yeah, because of course, if I toilet, there'll be door here, which is not shown here. We're not interested in the internal doors. We're interested only things which are on the external walls here. So whatever written there in blue, you can just draw small boxes. If you have colored pencil, you can color it blue, for example. If you have any door which is not made of glass, maybe wood, so do note that down. We are interested mostly in openings which are glass, means light can come through easily. Yeah, so we are interested in that. But if you have an external door which is made of wood, just bear in mind that it is opaque, so light cannot go through it. It's going to be blocking the light. Okay. So draw your layout, put the internal partitions of your home. Actually, if you think of what you're doing here, maybe you've never thought of your house in this way. Yeah, if you've never done any layout for your house. So this is going to be quite interesting as well, and maybe quite revealing as well for you that this is how your home is when you put it on paper. Now, just label your space, like I said, and put the external glaze openings. So typically the windows and the doors. So in my house, you have two big openings. These are actually doors in front there and one here, and at the back also there's doors which can open fully. So in a way, I can open this space completely and complete this one. And then one bedroom has one window here. The toilet has actually an eaves here, so at a high level window. And it's the main door actually to come in my house. And then we have one big kitchen there with two windows here. And then you can see this garage there has no windows here because actually this is my brother's house on the side there. And actually it is almost in contact here with this facade there. So there's no opportunity to have any windows here. This is why there's no window here. Okay. Now, I hope you have done that, but as I go along, if you need some more time, do let me know. But as we go along, you can keep adding things on there. Now, next thing which we need to be able to do on your home layout is to show where the north is. Yep. So it's not easy for you to show where the north is, we're going to identify where the sun rises. So if you want to do that more accurately, you can use a Google map. What I showed here, this is my house, which is here. Yep. So if you can locate your place using satellite view here, and you can locate your house, not today, but if you want to be more detailed afterwards, you can locate where your house is. And then on Google Map, always the north is on the top here. This is always the north in Google Map. So as you can see at my place, so this facade, there's a front facade, which I've drawn earlier. So this one here, yep, is what is shown on here. This is my front of my house. Yep. So you can see it is not north facing, it is really northeast facing if you want. Yep. So it's northeast facing. So the sun is going to rise somewhere here. So we're not using Google Map or a compass to do that. Even if you can do that at your more accurately, you can take a compass, go on top of your roof, and then look where the direction is. If you are installing any PV system or solar collector, you would do that because normally it is north facing. But for today's exercise, it's enough just to think in the morning where the sun rises. Yep. So for the sake of today's workshop, just locate where the sun normally rises. We're going to see the sun doesn't rise over the same place. So this is what I'm expecting from you. So this is where the sun rises for me. This is my layout. Like I said, this is my brother's house. I have another brother's house, which is a bit detached, so I have a passage here. Yep. But this is where the sun rises for me, and this is where it sets. So around. So more or less, just try to locate where the sun rises at your place. You should be able to do that. And then once you get this one, it will definitely set at the opposite end, and this is where the north would be. So basically you have here your cardinal points. So this is east, this is west, this is going to be the north, and this is going to be the south. So for me, like I said, this facade there is not a square with north or east. It's actually more or less northeast for me. Yeah. So it's important to know where the sun rises and where it sets. So again, I'll give you some time to reflect on your layout and to be able to say where the sun rises and where it sets. Yeah. So give you some more time to do that. Now you have seen on my layout I've just shown to you, you need to also highlight if you have any neighboring buildings. Like for me, there were my brother's house on one side and the other brother's house, which was really in contact with my with the garage facade. So you need to also show that. See why I've told you leave some space around your layout. So if you're able to now draw neighboring buildings, maybe your neighbors or your families or your brothers or other relatives' houses, which are next to your house. Also any tall trees. If you have any tall trees around your house, try to draw them on your layout. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, for sake of this workshop, you don't need to really use a compass because you won't have time for that or Google Map. But afterwards, you can do that if you want to be more accurate. But suffice to say where the sun rises, and this is going to be your east. And then once you get the east, you will get the west, you will get the north, and you will get the south. Next, like I said, draw windows and also draw any external buildings around your house and any trees. You have tall trees, not bushes. Bushes are not going to influence a lot our analysis, but tall trees like if you have any mango tree or longan or lychee, which are quite tall, at least 3 meters tall, means going up to your roof, do draw them, but not small bushes though. This is not going to influence a lot. So that's it. So I hope it looks like your home. And I hope it has been a good exercise for you to really understand your home. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Now, while we're doing that layout, we're going to come back to it in a few minutes. It's when we talk about the circular home, the concept I have created, like I said, as part of the COP26 was based on 3 main dimensions, which I think is going to be very effective if you want to participate in climate action at your home level. Now, if you look at in literature, especially you, our engineers or future engineers, if you look at how literature is and what's proposed in literature, you find very comprehensive sustainability frameworks from UN or from other organizations, which are already complex and people are not easily, it's not very easy, it's not user-friendly for any common person to use it. So this tend to be reserved for a niche market or people who are specialized in the area. This is very dangerous because then we are saying climate change is only the concern of some specialists, which I wanted to really overcome. So what I've done here, based on my own research, and things will be very logical as you would see as we go along. especially the energy one was based on quite significant research. I wanted to propose a very simple framework with very simple measures, 1 to 3 measures, which are applicable for anyone and any person can understand it. That was the whole purpose. So I said at the start, even if your background is not engineering, not science, if you're from any faculty, you should be able to understand what I'm about to explain to you. Yep. So the first pillar for the circular home is energy. Yep. So on your home you've just drawn now, you will start understanding what is the main concern for Mauritius today is about air conditioning. As we're getting warmer and warmer summers, people are investing more and more into air conditioning equipment, and this would increase your carbon footprint of your home significantly. Yep. If you install an air conditioning system at your home, I'm not saying not to install an air conditioning. This is not the idea here, but it's about understanding what is causing you to install an air conditioning system at your home. And if you take a simple measures that you would come as we go along, you would use your air conditioning system much less. So even if you have an air conditioning system at home, I'm not saying you have done a wrong move, no, because this is your preference, it's your choice. But what we will be discussing now will allow you to reduce use, or if you don't have any air conditioning at home, you may not require one. This is what is the whole purpose of what we're going to do here. So the first pillar of a circular home is about energy. So when we talk of energy, there are many things. You can talk about green energy, solar PV, solar water heating. You can talk about appliances which are energy rated, or you can talk about LED lighting. You can talk about energy rated equipment. All these are important. But I think the prime concern for Mauritius today as a tropical country is warmer summers and people investing in air conditioning. So the specific measure I have chosen in circular home is about providing thermal comfort to people without needing an air conditioning. So how we do that? Yep. So let's go about, to be able to do that, this is why you've drawn the sun. You have to understand how the sun influences your home's thermal comfort. So I will not go into technical things here. I will explain very simple and very accessible knowledge to all of you. Now, you have heard of terms like with solstice. So you have one called winter solstice. So that's the shortest day you have. Yep. So we are very close to that. 21. We have gone actually through it. Sorry. 21 June was the shortest day you have. And if you have a winter solstice, you will also have a summer solstice, which is the longest day of a year. So typically that's 21 December. So in between now, you have 2 equinoxes. Equinoxes always have equal length of day and night, so 12 hours exactly. And this occurs at 21 September and 21 March. So why these things occur? For a simple reason, the sun's path is not fixed throughout the year. It changes constantly. So this is what's shown here. On this diagram, you can see one example. The sun is rising around the east here and then goes increases in elevation. So you have 2 main angles you have to just remember. That's not difficult at all. So one angle is called azimuth. It's basically what angle it does from the north. So if the sun is rising exactly in the east, the angle is simply 90 degrees. So you have an azimuth angle. When the sun is rising in the morning, the altitude or the elevation is 0. So at this position, the sun has an azimuth angle of 90 degrees and an elevation of 0. As the sun is moving along any given path, this path constantly changes throughout the year. If let's say I take one position here, so it will have a given azimuth. So the angle you have to rotate to get it is going to be around here. So maybe around 60 degrees from north. And the altitude will simply be that angle that the triangle is making. So nothing difficult. These 2 angles which I've talked about, azimuth and elevation or altitude, allows you to locate the position of a sun at any point in time during a day or during a given day of the month or day of the year. So it's very important that these 2 angles would give you solar paths for different days. So the sun is going to start in the east normally. So elevation, azimuth is 90 degrees here, elevation 0. And when it rises on top there, so when it's exactly on north, the azimuth will be 0 because the reference for measuring the azimuth is actually the north. But of course, elevation here will be maximum. So if you want to get the elevation at this point, you can just draw a triangle here and the elevation will be simply from the horizontal to that. In Mauritius, especially at peak summer, this sun will be exactly on your head somewhere here. Yep. And then, of course, the sun will start settling down, going towards the horizon on the west side. When it is at the horizon, let's say at the beach or at Fikanflak, let's say you're looking at the sun, it's about to set. So at this position, again, the elevation becomes 0 because it is having a 0 elevation angle. But now the azimuth will be 90 degrees from the north, but in the other direction. Yep. So as you can see, these two simple angles there can allow you to locate the sun at any point in time. This is very fundamental. Now, when you take all these different angles, don't be afraid of a next diagram as I'm going to show you. If you take all these different angles and you map it throughout the year, you will get something like this for Mauritius. Yep. So as you can see, what is plotted down here is azimuth. Yep. And what is plotted on this axis is elevation. So if we plot now, let's say this one, if you find this curve on the bottom, there is a winter solstice. This shortest day you have of the year. This is the path which the sun is taking. You can see the sun rises quite late, around 6:30, and is setting quite early at 5:30 only. Whereas the biggest curve you have here, this one, is the summer solstice. So this is the day where the sun is the longest day. So you can see the sun is rising very, very early, around, look at this time, there's almost 5:30, and it's settling quite late, around 6:30. I'm saying around. And in terms of elevation now, so as you can see, let's take this curve here, this one, where the sun is rising exactly in the east at 90 degrees, that's the east. So this curve there is your equinox. Yep. So you can see the sun rises exactly in the east at 90 degrees from the north and sets exactly in the west at 90 degrees from the north again in the other direction. That's the equinox. Now, look at the elevation now. You can see in winter, this is the shortest day. The elevation is around 45 degrees. So the sun will not be on your head. It's going to be in front of you at 45 degrees. Whereas at equinox, it's going to be around 70 degrees. Yep, around 70 degrees. So again, not exactly on your head, but a bit higher than, of course, the solstice. But look at the summer solstice now. The sun is exactly on your head at 90 degrees. Yep. So this curve is fully accessible. If you want to get the position of a sun at any point in time during the year, you can refer to solar charts like this, which is available for Mauritius. Now, even if you want to understand it fully, but what I want to infer from here to refer to your diagram is simply, I will come to this slide in a few minutes. Look at this slide here. Yep. So referring to your house layout, which you've just drawn with some openings. So what can we confirm from this solar chart? When the sun is rising in the morning, it's going to be somewhere here. The elevation is almost zero, so it's going to be almost at the face of your window. Whereas when the sun goes toward the north during the day, it's going to take a position something like this, or even on top here. Yep. So what's the implication of this? If you have any openings, any window which is facing in the west or the east, where the sun has a very low elevation, this sun will directly come into your house through the window and heat up your room, be it your bed sheet or your cupboard or your flooring. So if you have any room in your house which is along the east or the west, or even the northeast or the northwest, where even along this orientation, the sun has a quite low elevation. And if during the day you don't draw your curtains, let's say you forget to do that and you went to university, then the sun has penetrated into your room throughout the day and heated up. This will be like a furnace in the evening. When you come back in the evening, you'll feel like it's a furnace. Yep. So now you can start relating to your layout where you have shown the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. Look at the windows you've drawn. Any window which is along the east or northeast or the northwest or the west, you should know that these windows would contribute a lot of heat gain into the rooms which are in these orientations. Now, let's say you have any window which is on the north orientation where the sun is quite high up. If at your home you have what is called overhang, if you have any overhang like this, you can block the sun. These overhangs are effective only when the sun is high up. If you have any overhang, yep, for any window which is on the east and west, is ineffective. However deep this overhang is, if the sun is down here with a low elevation, the sun will still get into your home. So very simple stuff I'm talking here, nothing complicated. So a low elevation sun is impossible to block with an overhang like this. If you want to block a low elevation sun, I will show you in a few minutes what you need to do. Yep. So this is very insightful. Look at your layout now and see where do you have glazing or windows in the east or northeast or in the northwest and the west where the sun is settling, will have low elevation or rising in the morning, again low elevation. These spaces would heat up a lot during the day, especially if you have large window surfaces. Yeah. So just a summary, the sun starts with low elevation, we've said, in the morning and sets with low elevation in the evening. The sun has a high elevation during the day. That's clear. And during the day, of course, that's a north orientation. That's where the sun will be during the day. The sun has a lower elevation angle during winter as compared to summer. Yep. So we've also seen in this diagram, remember, in winter, the elevation at peak there will be less. Yep. So if you imagine what this means, if you look at this diagram, this would be more or less what a winter sun will look like, and like a summer sun will be higher up. So this also has some implication in terms of can the sun penetrate into your space or not? Now, if you have a winter sun, which is like this, maybe that's good. If you want the sun to heat up your space because it's quite cold, like currently we are feeling very cold, we'll be very happy for this winter sun to heat up the space. Whereas in summer, we don't want the sun to heat the space because we're having excess heat. So as you can see, we don't always want to block the sun. In some periods of the day, we want to allow the sun to come in. Now, what does this mean for your home and thermal comfort? As you can see from the simple exercise you've just done, you should already start maybe, you would have experience of your home. So you can already start seeing in your layout where do you expect to get high temperature or uncomfortable temperature during summer? And maybe you could cross-check with yourself now, or you could check with your parents afterwards. Is that the case? So as you can see, very simple information how the sun is traversing your house. You can already predict what is causing this overheating and why you would want to consider investing in air conditioning. What are the solutions now? Let's look at that. So this has been done already, and I've talked about the northeast and so on. So these are the orientation where the sun has a low elevation. Yep. Now, another important consideration is your roof. We know our roof in Mauritius are flat, and flat roof would be irradiated by the sun throughout the day. So another important source of heat gain in your home is your roof. If you touch your ceiling at night, when you come back, you'll find it's quite warm, and this is radiating heat on you. So two important considerations for your home. One is where are the glazed surfaces, and second one is a roof. If you want to now block these unwanted heat gain during summer, you can simply put let's say, I'll just show you the images now. So we'll be skipping this. These are things I've discussed already. You can have very simple overhangs or awning on your window if you want to block. So these devices are relevant for the north orientation because the north sun is quite high. So you can block them using this type of devices. But in your east and west, it's not effective, like I mentioned. Now, the south is a special orientation in Mauritius. We are the southern hemisphere. The sun never visits the south. So if you have any glazing surfaces in the south, the sun will never get in there. So you can have as much glazing as you want in the south. So there's no risk of overheating. Now, in the east and west, you will need to have devices like this. If you want to block the sun, which is of low elevation, overhangs are not effective. You would need to use things like awnings like this, or louvers or shutters. So these things now can be controlled by yourself manually if you can do it. But if you are more intelligent, this is where mechatronics or IoT come in there. You can start proposing systems which know where the sun is, and you can automatically control them to shut off when the sun has a risk of penetrating into these surfaces. And when the sun is out of this orientation, you can start opening it back to have daylight coming. So this is where I wanted to also integrate some IoT or mechatronics aspect. Now, these are man-made solutions. You can also consider plants. Like I mentioned, trees. So this is a very simple layout there, a plan. So this is again the north, the east, there's the west and the south. So you can see in the south, you don't need anything because the sun never travels here. But in the east and the west, you can plant tall trees. And we know trees also help in regenerating oxygen. It's very good for biodiversity. So I would favor trees as much as possible. But if you don't have space to plant trees at your home, you would consider things like this. Yep. So the important point there is if at your home, you don't have shading devices like this, what about your roof now? Before I continue, you can have very simple solar shade. You know, there are these fabric which are sold at Mr. Bricolage. I've just bought them for my own home. It is sold around 100 rupees per meter, and it's very similar to a greenhouse. So this would allow you to actually prevent the sun from falling onto your roof. And currently at my place, I've removed them because I want the sun to fall on my roof. So you can have very simple structure made of wires at your home or metal bars, and then you can just put this solar shade on top. It would be like a greenhouse. So during summer, you would be deploying them so the sun doesn't fall on your roof. And during winter, where you want the sun to fall on the roof, you can just draw it aside and just tie it so that you can, it's a flexible system. Yep. So these are very simple things. So my point was, if at your place you don't have any shading devices, be it like what I'm showing here, or trees like this, or you don't have any shading device for your roof, but you're investing into air conditioning, this is not a sustainable solution. Means you're not tackling the problem from the root. Yep. So this is one very effective solution you can consider. So if you look at your layout now, you should be able to see where the problem is. Like I'm saying, so roof, which is flat and which is heated during the day in summer, and your window surfaces, your transparent surfaces, which allow the sun to get in. So I hope it is now making sense to you what changes you could do at your home. Very simple retrofits, which can allow you to stop unwanted heat gain during summer and be able to come up with solutions. Now, this is a famous diagram which we have seen a lot. So what I've just talked about is supporting this pillar there, keep products and materials in use. What I mean by material sphere or resources available at your home level. Yep. So at home, you have things like air, you have water and light. So you want to make maximum use of these things to meet your needs at home and rely less on things like air conditioning to bring air into your space, or to cool your windows or your cupboards at home when you could have blocked the heat at the source itself. Yeah. So this is one way. This is supporting the circular economy. Now, next pillar, I've just talked about the energy one. Next one I would talk about is materials. Yep. So throughout our time in the first two sessions, I've talked a lot about materials. In Mauritius currently, we have a huge problem with materials. We are having around 540,000 tons of waste being landfilled every year, and we know our landfills are full up completely, and 80% of that comes from homes. So what can we do at your home level? So one very simple thing would be to start segregating. So currently I'm running a campaign. So I've sent you emails on that earlier. So I'm distributing different colored bags like this for people to segregate their waste. And the next question you will ask me, if I segregate my waste, but the lorry comes and collect all together, then what's the purpose? We are not doing something which is fruitful. But this is where I would ask you now as individuals. If you have a mindset like this, it means you're still relying on government to do things for you, for government to collect your waste separately and to give to recycling companies. What prevents you as our youth to start looking for solutions based on these materials? Let's say you have paper, plastic, or you have cardboard, you have glass. There are things out there which is called materials innovation. There are recipes available on the web where you can use these materials. It's not waste, it's materials, very clean materials. If you can educate households how to separate the waste properly and to give them to you, I don't know what sort of mechanism you can put in place at your street level or at the community level. I'm trying to work with artists and entrepreneurs to do that. So I'm trying to make that change. So we don't rely on collection facilities to do that for us. Because these materials we're talking about is very valuable materials. In Mauritius, we don't have resources, but we are misusing these resources. We are combining everything with food, and it's become like unwanted thing. And then we just throw it into the atmosphere. And when we throw this waste in the atmosphere, it emits carbon emission when it decays. It also blocks drains. So when we have high flash floods, high rain intensity, then we typically say our drains are blocked. But why is blocked? Because we are not dealing properly with our materials. So you can see you have a win-win situation there. These materials are worth millions, if not billions of rupees. So you, our youth here, we have lots of opportunities for chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, or whatever background you have. You can start using these materials to create new products from them. You can create new engineering materials even that can be used for new applications like furniture, tabletops, and this could be also business opportunities for you. And how to get this? You can raise awareness in your communities, and you can put up mechanisms in place where you collect this from them, or you have central collection facilities for every street. Households can separate the waste using the different colors or other color coding which you can create, and they will come and drop this at the central community facility, and then you take it from there and then you create the materials. So this is what I'm trying to raise awareness on. So this would be really a very important ingredient of a circular home, is we should not just mix all our waste and send it into the lorry for the scavengers and then take it to landfills. This is not sustainable for us. So a circular home would be doing waste segregation, and how this would actually come to reality is we need to know what to do with these materials. Yep. So I will rely on you. I have ideas for that. So if you're keen, we can work on that. So this is supporting again this third pillar, keep maximum use of products and products in loops, as we've said. And you would recall this diagram, which we've discussed already. So if you start doing that, you are already supporting these loops there. Very important. Yep. Let's move on. If you look at the other pillar, design art, waste and pollution. So concrete examples of that would be solid waste segregation. I've just talked about you. So if you're able to do that, you are supporting this one. You are designing art waste. Now, when you talk about pollution, it's also about carbon emissions. So I've talked about energy pillar already. If you're able to reduce the use of air conditioning or any energy consumption at your home, you are supporting this pillar for energy efficiency and energy conservation. There are other things you can do once you have achieved an optimum energy performance at your home. You can start investing into clean energy like renewable energy, PV, wind turbine, or even solar cooking is a very promising area we don't use in Mauritius. So you, again, our youth, you could develop this type of system as part of your projects or as part of your career one day. We don't have too much left, so I'll just quickly go over that. Now, the third pillar, regenerate natural systems. So this one is, like I said, my favorite pillar, because today we are facing phenomena like climate change or loss of biodiversity because we have distorted natural systems. We have totally distorted natural systems based on our man-made activities, be it through air pollution or by constructing lots of buildings with impermeable surfaces. So one example which I've highlighted there, which show you how we have distorted natural system, is exactly that. If you look at your home layout now and try to figure out where your rainwater outlets are. So when rain falls on your roof, where does the water go? So just try to draw, if you want on your roof, just try to put where your rainwater outlets are. And when rain falls, where does the water go from there? Does it go into the soil, or does it go on the road, or does it go somewhere else, maybe on your neighbor's plot? But if it goes on the road, it means there's a problem there. Because before you constructed your house, that water was going to the ground. When you constructed your home, you are creating runoff because your home is impermeable. So you have distorted a natural system in place. This is one example I'm trying to highlight. There are other examples, like I mentioned, the urban heat island effect, because concrete will also amass heat. But before you constructed your home, there were no heat accumulation. So there are methods to reduce the urban heat island effect, which I'm not going to discuss today. I'm highlighting more on this one here, because we're going to talk about the water pillar. We've talked about the energy already, the materials already. The third one of circular home is about the water dimension. So my main focus here is how can you deal with that runoff to make it more like a sustainable use? Because if you harvest the rainwater, you can use it for irrigating or for doing other things at your home. But if you don't deal with this runoff well, you allow this runoff to go into drains or on the road, then you will end up creating flooding in your community. So I was saying earlier, if you start putting economics out there, you say, yes, if I'm collecting rainwater and 1 liter of water costs 50 cents from CWA, if I collect, let's say, rainwater harvesting tank with a pump, this language is fine. But the more important language for you is, if I don't do that, I will get flooding in my community and there's no cost to flooding. So this is very important. The language totally changed. When you go in community and explain to people, if you ask them, yes, you need to invest in a rainwater harvesting tank because you can get non-potable water to irrigate your garden or to maybe wash your car or flush your toilet, they will tell you what's the economics of it. If one rainwater harvesting tank costs, let's say 10,000 rupees, then they will get their money back maybe after 30 years. They will say, no, we'll never invest in that. It's not economical. But if you show to them how their runoff is causing flooding in communities, they will say, yes, it's very important for us to do that. So it's very important we get the correct language. Okay. Now, I mentioned other things here, biophilic design or biodiversity displays. So all these things have to be with integrating nature or landscaping into your home or into your projects as much as possible, because we have disturbed and destroyed lots of natural green areas already in Mauritius. So if you can devise nature-based solutions as much as possible, it's going to be more beneficial for us. We've done this exercise already. So like I was saying earlier, now think of your home and how water goes from your roof, and does it go into the ground? Or are you harvesting the rainwater to use it for non-potable ends? If you're doing that, very good. If you don't have any use of non-potable water at home, at least make that water go into the ground. It should not go on the road. Yep. So putting the pieces together, I've covered this already with you, energy dimension. I've said all this is important, but my main focus today on you was on passive design, means how can you control heat gains into your house using very simple shading device on your roof and on your glazing. This is very important. So the principles I've discussed to you here today is called passive design, means design which regulate heat transfer without any active use of energy. You can automate these devices with very simple devices like mechatronic systems so that they become a bit more intelligent. You could do that. This is interesting. Next thing we talk about is materials dimension. I've talked about the importance of doing solid waste segregation at home level. This is fundamental, and we need to move in this direction for Mauritius. Currently, government are doing their part, but I don't think we need to rely on government only. Like I've said, there are lots of opportunities there for you to do materials innovation, people from chemical engineering, mechanical, any background. There are a lot of recipes available online. So if you're interested, you can Google what can you do with paper. For example, you can take paper, blend it, and you can make new paper from it. Or you could start using plastic to integrate into composites, things like this. So there are opportunities out there. Yep. And I've talked about the water dimension of a circular home. You should be aware that your home is creating runoff, which was not happening before you constructed your home. And you need to be responsible to manage this, because you don't want to disrupt the natural course of the water, because it was going to the ground to refill the boreholes. But if you just send that runoff into drains, the drain will go into rivers, and the rivers will go to the sea, carrying all the debris along, all the pesticide, the chemicals. So in a way, you are polluting the sea, but at the same time, you're not replenishing the boreholes. So ultimately, we might face a situation in Mauritius where we have lots of flooding, lots of runoff from your roof, but all are going to the sea, and we don't have water to drink. So we have to be conscious of that. The solution is not difficult, like I mentioned. If all of us are able to make sure the water is going to the ground, that's enough. This is what we learn at CPE level. When we are standard 5 or 6, this is what we learn about the water cycle. The water would go into the ground, go to the sea naturally, or fill our boreholes, and then we can use it back. The water should not go in the drains. Now, what's in it for you as engineers? Lots of opportunities out there. Water prediction is one area you could get into, because an important factor we have talked today is the climate, the sun and the rain. So if you can predict these things using AI or any other method, it's very useful for you to control the system. You can also look about solar power prediction. Like I've said, you could automate the shading I've talked about. So this could be areas you could look into. Yep, control passive systems or control of active systems themselves. Like if you have air conditioning at home, or am I getting any message? No. If you have any air conditioning at home or any fan to do mechanical ventilation, there are opportunities to control them efficiently as possible, so you don't waste energy, even the lighting. So when you are in a space, you light it. So these are very fundamental things you can also look into. Service offerings. So if you can start now in your community as a student, even that's an opportunity for us to make our campus at the University of Mauritius zero waste. Currently, we know our waste, the University of Mauritius is not doing lots in terms of having zero waste status. So we are just combining all our waste and then just sending everything to landfill. So can we make our campus, for example, where we have these bins rows with 4 different colors, we separate the food, and then we encourage the senior management at university to make sure you're recycling all the paper and all the plastic you're separating. So ultimately our campus can become zero waste. You can also make a similar thing at your home level. And then what do you do with these materials? I've talked to you, Lanville, on that. You can look for opportunities to even to create new materials and sell. Yeah, there are lots of business opportunity there. So I hope you've seen where you can apply IoT, AI, control techniques, or mechatronic system to automate things and to make things more intelligent. So that was also one topic I wanted to highlight. This one I've talked already in the previous 2 sessions. Yep. So we talked about that already, the different opportunities for circular design. I've shared this this document with you already when I did for the IEEE. So I will share this again with Yashil. I have created a guidebook which gives more information on what I've discussed today. It was a project which was funded by the Higher Education Commission, so it's completed. I have a guidebook created on called Sustainable Home for Mauritius. It gives much more detail on what I've discussed today in other areas which you can consider. So this is my last slide actually. So I hope you've seen how can you apply the circular economy principles, which we've seen there are 3 fundamental pillars, but I've tried to show to you today how this can be put into practice at the level of your home. But in general, if you have any project in the future, I hope you're able to apply these 3 fundamental principles. Like we said, just to enumerate them again, it was design out waste and pollution. It was keeping materials in the loop, means make them, not allow them to become waste. And third, regenerate natural systems. Yeah. So any questions from you based on what you've done at the home level, if you want any further feedback from you. So I pass on now back to the student team. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guruchan, for sharing once again an in-depth knowledge about this topic. Yet another two-way session from you. We have learned a lot during these 3 sessions, and we hope to attend more workshops from you throughout our journey in the university. You have talked about climate change, and us as engineers are really concerned about it, and we all really hope for a brighter, greener environment. I've really enjoyed the understanding your home. Here's mine.
Thank you.
And I hope I can help in contributing for the betterment of the environment, even at individual level.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will now read some of the questions addressed to you. Okay, so first question. In today's world, everyone is doing his best to avoid wastage due to the current increase in prices for the different kind of goods. With such a tight budget in hand, how can one apply circular economy at home?
Okay, so normally I mentioned about that earlier. We tend to think about economics, and we tend to think that if we want to go for circular economy, we have to invest more money. I think this is a correct time to actually go for circular economy. If you look at the very base of circular economy is to be more frugal, to be more responsible, to be more aware of how we are living our life. So if we can, for example, stop wasting materials, making the materials become more useful instead of sending it into a bin. So this become a huge profit for some people. If we can stop food waste, we can start sharing food. We can use our food waste to create compost. So you can immediately see here, our waste is becoming profits for us. So the circular economy is a huge opportunity, especially now in times when we are facing more difficult situations. I think it's very important that we start doing things at community level, sharing knowledge at community level, empowering community. If you look at the community, there are a lot of people with different talents. Someone can know how to grow crops. Someone would know how to use maybe materials to create artistic things. Someone would maybe know a plumber would know how to do rainwater harvesting. So if you start using all these talents at community level, I think our economy will become more resilient, will become more circular and more profitable. Yeah, I think there are out there, like you said, Asma, now it's very testing times. So I think this is a time for us to be more circular. Yes.
Okay, next question. Theoretically, we are creating an awareness about the importance of circular economy globally. But how do we ensure that each individual is really willing to commit to this concept of circular economy?
Yeah, so I hope in today's session for the circular home, this was really the reason why I've created the circular home concept. So I hope each one of you have seen now, when you look at climate action or climate activists, they tend to lobby for governments to do things for the economy. This is very important. Even you, our youngsters, I would encourage you because climate change is so serious. But my point of view was a bit different. I did not want the young just to lobby for climate action. I wanted them to take action concretely at their home. So I hope from today's session, if you can just consider what I've said about the use of simple shading to prevent air conditioning at your home, or to use less of aircon, or to make sure your water is not going on the road to create flooding, because we know from climate change, you will have increased amount of high rainfall intensity, flash floods, like we say. So we need to be more resilient. And the materials, if you do this free, you are very good in terms of starting. I'm in this area for a long time. I think these are the 3 main measures I would recommend for Mauritius. If you're able to do that, the next step would be to go for solar PV, would be to go for LED lighting, would be to go for maybe more efficient refrigerator. But for me, the main thing in energy would be air conditioning. For water would be for the rainwater runoff. And for materials would be to make sure you are starting to segregate waste and finding ways to use that in a community with artisans, with craftspersons, or with recycling companies. Yeah.
Thank you. We don't have more questions, so we have reached the end of this session. Before closing, our faculty representative, Yashil, will address you. Yashil.
Yes, so good evening, everyone, and thank you, Asma. Well, before you thank everyone, I would like to personally thank the Chemical Engineering Society executives who hosted all the free sessions and all the other societies, the IEEE and IMechE student branches, the DASET Society, the Civil Engineering Society, a new team actually, new people that will be leading the societies for the next years. And I'm really proud of them actually, because it's not always easy. It requires really this willpower and the envy to do a little bit more each and every time. So we had Macron at the start, who introduced us to the mission activities of the chemical engineering societies, and all the other have similar objectives. So do join them to form part of this amazing journey, because your presence today is what actually like fuels us. So you will see that I will continue to involve the year 1 and year 2 students in the upcoming events. New names to you, but definitely the future pillars among our students. So right now we are just consolidating a solid core, then small steps, small events, we will get where we want to situate our faculty. So right now we'll be having webinars and workshops. By the way, soon we'll have one on AI by Dr. Guruchan himself, and one on occupational health and safety for engineers by a professional from the industry. So before most of you joined, I also discussed with Dr. Guruchan about the site visits that will be done via the societies, and much more afterwards. We can have engineering competitions, like mentioned by Dr. Guruchan, maybe challenges about agriculture. And this is just the visible part of the iceberg. So lots of amazing projects, and all that we need is actually your support and participation, because with the help and power of students, we can achieve massive things. So that's all for me, Asma. Can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashil. Thank you, everyone, including the organizing team, like Yashil said, for being present and for being active throughout the presentation. Thank you, Dr. Guruchan, for the instructive, useful presentations and for clearing any doubts that we had by responding to our questions. We can all conclude that this workshop is a success. Do not forget to fill in the attendance form, and it will be sent to you in the chat box, and you will receive a certificate of attendance by email in the coming days, provided you have attended all 3 sessions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a nice evening. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Guruchan. See you later for the workshop on AI. So,
yes, yeah, we planned that. Yeah, goodbye.
Yes, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Donc, laissez-moi checker un coup que ça n'a